What's going on, everybody? Today's a special day. In this video, we will be talking about my top 24 fantasy quarterbacks for 2022. This is the first rankings video that I posted on the channel this offseason, so the running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends will be coming in the upcoming days. For this list, I assume the default 4 points per passing touchdown. I would say that the 6 points per passing touchdown format really only matters to me for the top 13 players on this list. Everyone after that player would relatively stay in the same spot. If there's any player you specifically want to hear about, I'll leave a timestamp of all the players in the description so you can just jump to that spot in the video. Alright, let's dive right in. So my number one quarterback for 2022 is obviously pretty much the consensus number one, Josh Allen. Josh Allen to me is just the most proven, reliable quarterback on the market. 2 seasons of dominance. First player to finish as the QB1 in back-to-back seasons since Drew Brees did it 10 years ago. The Buffalo situation is the same, if not even better than last year, adding Jamison Crowder and rookie James Cook out of the backfield. He has a super safe floor because of the rushing yards plus the rushing TDs. In his career of games he started, he's rushed for a touchdown in 46% of his games. That's almost half. So look, don't overthink it. If you're going to take a quarterback early, try to get Josh Allen. He seems pretty much foolproof. Coming in at number 2 on the list is Lamar Jackson. And I just think people are overthinking Lamar Jackson this year. He's got the ultimate cheat code. He ran for over 1,000 yards in 2019 and 2020 and was on pace for just under 1,200 yards last year before he missed the end of the season due to injury. Last year leaves a sour taste in fantasy managers' mouths due to the fact that on 133 carries, he only ran for 2 touchdowns. Before last year, he never ran for less than 5 in a season. Sure, they lost Hollywood Brown, but I just think Lamar Jackson's rushing ability gives him the safest floor in all of fantasy football, with mega boom games. In his career, he only has 2 games with less than 5 rushing attempts, and in one of those games, he threw 5 touchdowns so he didn't need to run. On Fantasy Pros, Lamar Jackson is currently ranked as the QB4 going at pick 55. So you're getting this guy in the late 4th round, early 5th round. That could be an absolute steal in a league-winning pick. Number 3 on the list is Justin Herbert. Isn't Herbert just an absolute baller? Only in his second year, Herbert threw for over 5,000 yards and nearly 40 touchdowns. The interception numbers are kind of high, but they don't bother me too much unless you play in a league where the interceptions are worth -3, -4 points. Default leagues are usually -2, -1. Herbert's situation is pretty awesome. I mean, he has awesome weapons with Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, who got a nice fat contract extension, and we can't forget about potential top 5 pick, Austin Eckler out of the backfield. The risk with Herbert is kind of obvious. Any quarterback that doesn't have the cheat code running has to throw for nearly 40 touchdowns and anywhere above pretty much 4,500 yards to be a top 5 quarterback. Herbert's rushing ability isn't nothing, he's not going to be Tom Brady on the ground, but it's kind of limited to 300 yards and somewhere, a lottery spin with a wheel of 1 to 5, anywhere in that range. But when I look at Herbert, it just seems very feasible that he blows up again, throws for another 45 to 5,000 yards, 40 plus TDs, and just has an absolute blow-up monster 3rd-year campaign. That's why I have Herbert at number 3. Coming in at number 4 on my 2022 fantasy quarterback rankings is Patrick Mahomes. And let's just get it out of the way. Patrick Mahomes is absolutely awesome. He's the best quarterback in the league, pretty much hands down. Currently going as the QB number 2 in consensus ADP, I have him at number 4, so I'm a little behind. I'm really counting the loss of Tyreek Hill against Mahomes here. I just don't think you can replace Tyreek Hill with anybody in the league. I do like the pickups of Juju Smith-Schuster, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, MVS, from Green Bay, rookie Sky Moore, and Justin Ross. But I just don't believe that, any one of these guys are going to be super valuable for fantasy, but they will each have their handful of big, valuable games. I like to compare the situation a little bit like Aaron Rodgers, where Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers have the one big weapon, Devontae Adams. Matt Mahomes has Travis Kelce. But now they have a bunch of kind of just ancillary pieces. Aaron Rodgers has Allen Lazard, Sammy Watkins this year. We'll talk about him later, but, and all those guys never put up 1,000 yards, but they put up the 500-600 yard seasons with 4 or 5 touchdowns, and they've had their big plays here and there. I think the Kansas City Chiefs are going to operate a lot like that this year. No matter what you put around him, he's going to be able to find a way to throw for 35 touchdowns, 5,000 yards, and be awesome for fantasy. So I'm not going to count out the best quarterback in the league because I personally believe talent over situation. That's just how I live fantasy football, and I'm going to continue to do it with Patrick Mahomes at number 4. Number 5 on the list is Tom Brady. Now this one I'm going to keep short and simple. I'm just not going to bet against the GOAT again. I'm aware of the red flags, right? And there's a bunch. He's 45 years old. Chris Godwin may miss time. Rob Gronkowski hasn't returned to Tampa Bay yet. Bruce Arians is gone, new head coach. I've said it before in this video. You know what you need from Brady to be great for fantasy football. We need 4,500 passing yards and 40 TDs, which he's done in back-to-back seasons in Tampa. Why can't he do it again? Like I said previous about Patrick Mahomes, I'm just going to bet on talent, and Tom Brady is easily the best quarterback of all time. So after my top 5 quarterbacks when I made my initial ranks, I ran into a ton of issues. I had a consensus top 5, it was more just putting them in the order I wanted. Number 6 for me is Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray is a super hard player to rank for fantasy football because we've seen the highs, and there's been a ton of them, but we also had some equally impactful lows. He has the classic Russell Wilson effect, who I'll talk about next, in the fact of he starts off the seasons usually red hot, but then breaks down at the end of the year or falls off a cliff and really derails your fantasy season by being bad the back half of the year. Let's look at the numbers really quickly. Weeks 1 through 8 pace that he had last year would have averaged out to 4,800 passing yards and 36 touchdowns for Kyler Murray. That would be absolutely awesome. Then Murray dealt with some injuries, not any that required him to miss significant time. I believe he missed 2 to 3 games, but lingering issues and injuries that impact his stats. So then when he came back from injury, weeks 13 through 18, 6 games, that pace would have only had him average out 4,300 yards and 20 touchdowns. Sure, that was without DeAndre Hopkins, but we're going to miss DeAndre Hopkins for 6 games this year due to suspension. And also, a big red flag for Kyler Murray, for me, is the rushing was way down last year, and it could have been because of the injury. But in 2020, Murray ran for over 800 yards and 11 TDs. Last year, he only ran for 30 yards a game. So, which Murray are we getting in 2022 is the big question. If we get the 2020 version of Murray, we have a league winner on our hands, as he's going as the QB5, 64th player overall. But if we get 2021 back half Kyler Murray, we're going to be in some rough patches for fantasy football. Coming in at number 7 is Russell Wilson. We all know how great he was for Seattle, and I do believe he can be equally great in Denver. We have to acknowledge that the duo of Courtland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy, and you can actually make it a trio with Tim Patrick in there, are worse than DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. If you want to argue that, maybe you like the talent war or whatever, at least you have to admit, the Denver boys are far less proven than DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. My issue isn't at all with Russ as a player. It's more to do with him playing in a new city with new players. It's the unknown. Russ is a very ad-lib player who needs to build a connection and chemistry with his playmakers. How many rollouts, escapes from the pocket, bomb TDs to Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf have we seen in the past? And also, we have to recognize it. It's there, it's lingering, it's the elephant in the room. Russell Wilson being a true dual threat quarterback, I think it's over. Sure, he can get the occasional scramble TD, he did it last year. But the 500 plus yards and 5 rushing TD seasons are in the past. So Russell Wilson, you really have to bank on the high touchdown numbers again in yards and maybe some rushing splashed in there. But I think Russell Wilson is still awesome, and I'm excited to have him in fantasy football. Coming in at number 8 is Matthew Stafford. Stafford is back with another great receiving core. Allen Robinson and Cooper Kupp alone make this offense dangerous. Stafford is the king of consistency. 2021, he had 0 games over 30 points, but only 6 games under 18 points. So if you're looking for a later round QB who you know will finish as a top 10 to 6 option, Stafford is a lock for that. He's actually the perfect quarterback to pair with a riskier late round quarterback. For instance, if you took someone like Trey Lance, who you don't know if he's going to start, we don't know if he's going to be any good at quarterback, but maybe draft both, Stafford and Trey Lance. You have him as the baseline starter, just in case Justin Fields doesn't work out, Marcus Mariota, Tua Tagovailoa, right? These guys don't work out, you have Matt Stafford to fall back on. When it comes to fantasy football, I live by a couple philosophies, maybe set of rules, whatever you'd like to call them. And one of them is I don't really trust the one-year wonder, the blow-up year guy. It's just not in my DNA. It worries me too much. I've seen it too many times where the quarterback, the running back has a nice stretch or has a great season, but they kind of came out of nowhere and then they fade into the background. They disappear. We've seen Matt Stafford in Detroit throw for 28 touchdowns and 4,000 yards and be okay for fantasy here and there, but never a starter. What if it goes back to that? What if the Rams went on some Cinderella story, like I think they may have a little bit, You know, and we'll talk about Joe Burrow, right? You haven't seen his name yet, and you're not going to see it for a while. I'm a believer in the prove it to me again camp. That's where I'm at. Coming in at number 9, and this one kind of pains me to do it, it's Deshaun Watson. And look, I get it. I completely understand. If you don't even want to think about Deshaun Watson this year because of all the legal trouble and the fact that he's probably a terrible human being, I completely understand. I get it. But it's my job. You're here to hear the ranks. And I'm going to leave it up to you. If he plays a full season, I'm taking him at QB 9. As of right now, he's not suspended. I have a feeling he's going to be suspended, so this rank will drop. But as of right now, he's number 9 on my list. He's a great quarterback, and he was very productive in Houston over his career. In 2020, with Brandon Cooks and Will Fuller, he had a great year. I expect he will be good in Cleveland again with Amari Cooper, the running backs out of the backfield, Donovan Peoples-Jones, David Njoku. I mean, they're not A-plus weapons, but I think they're good enough weapons to succeed for fantasy football. And not to mention, he has a little bit of the cheat code. He generally rushes for 400 to 500 yards and nearly 5 touchdowns a year. So, look, at the end of the day, I think Deshaun Watson's still a great quarterback. Great person, not so much. But look, it's up to you to decide. If you just want to get him out of your rankings and you don't want to draft him, fine. But if you don't care about what he did off the field and you want to go for it, he's QB 9 on my list. Coming in at number 10 is Jalen Hurts. Now, this guy has been everywhere in rankings. I see him top 5. I see him back at 10 like I have him. You know, and I just have a hard time putting a player on a list this high inside my top 10 who's not very good at being a quarterback. Jalen Hurts, I will admit, is an awesome runner, but as a passer, I'm just not impressed in really the slightest. Hurts had 6 games where he completed less than 60% of his throws, 9 games under 200 passing yards last year. Hurts is put in every position to succeed this year. Devonta Smith, A.J. Brown now in Philly, Dallas Goedert, great tight end. Good weapons out of the backfield, actually. He has a whole season as a starter under his belt. I will agree with the fact that Hurts has a pretty safe baseline floor because of the rushing. You know, he's similar to Matthew Stafford. He may not get huge blowout games because of the inefficiency through the air, but a safe floor because of the rushing. This is one where, look, I'll admit, at the end of the year, I might be an idiot. I might feel stupid because he could blow up and be awesome this year for fantasy. But I'm standing firm on the proven players in front of Hurts. And I'm not taking the risk on the one-year rushing quarterback who still hasn't proved to me that he can throw a football very well. Coming in at number 11 is Aaron Rodgers, and this one is a very obvious ranking. Rodgers is a back-to-back NFL MVP, but when your franchise is known for having one great receiver, and then that receiver goes to a new team and leaves behind a rookie from an FCS school, Allen Lazard, whose career high is 500 yards, Randall Cobb, who can't stay healthy, Sammy Watkins, who can't stay healthy, and Robert Tonyan, who's coming off a torn ACL, I'm out. I know I'm not out, but I just can't see a way where Aaron Rodgers pieces together a 40 touchdown season. You know, I really see him hovering around the 30 TD range. I know he's awesome. I get it. I even said earlier that I take talent over situation, but this one, the situation is just so bad. I can't have Aaron Rodgers that high. I still believe in the talent. I think he'll find a way to piece it together like he always does, but I just think the days of the 40 touchdowns are gone, and he's going to linger around the 30, maybe tap out at 35. So I just think the high weeks are gone. The baseline, still probably there from Aaron Rodgers. And rounding out my QB1s at number 12, Joe Burrow. Now this ranking is the one that's going to piss off the most people. I stand strong in the mindset of prove it to me again. I said it earlier on Matt Stafford. I'm going to say it again with Joe Burrow. The one-year wonder, the one-hit wonder, the one monster year scares me. Burrow obviously has the awesome weapons with the trio of Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd. I realistically feel that the Bengals had a big Cinderella story run to the Super Bowl. And if you look back on Joe Burrow's season, weeks 1 through 15, he threw for 26 touchdowns, which is just under 2 a game, so nothing really that spectacular. But then in weeks 16 and 17, Burrow went off and threw for 8 touchdowns, which made his season a lot better than it was. The ride wasn't great with Joe Burrow up until that point. Look, this is just me being realistic. Is Joe Burrow awesome? Does he have a ton of swag? Yeah, he does. I just don't know if Joe Burrow is the 40 touchdown quarterback. He can be great for NFL. He could be a great regular season quarterback and be good for fantasy. I just don't know if he has the greatness in him like the guys above him. Coming in at QB 13 is Dak Prescott. Dak is one of the most up and down quarterbacks you can start in fantasy football. 11 games over 20 fantasy points. But in the other 5 games, his highest score was 12.2. So the weeks he was off, he killed you that week. One issue with Dak is, of course, unproven weapons. People expect CeeDee Lamb to just jump up to a wide receiver 1 spot, which, hey, may happen. He did have 1,100 yards last year. But do we really trust any of the other options in Dallas? Dalton Schultz broke out unexpectedly last year. Had a great season, he really did. But once again, prove it to me more than once. Michael Gallup tore his ACL and isn't expected to be back for the start of the year. James Washington, who flamed out in Pittsburgh, I don't trust him. And rookie Jalen Tolbert, nope. Dak was never an elite rushing quarterback, but at least he gave you some yards and some major touchdowns. But last year, he only ran for 146 yards and 1 touchdown. It was kind of a killer for his fantasy stock. Dak is a good quarterback, a good real-life NFL quarterback with bright spots, but seems to kill you right when you start to buy in and trust him every week. That's when he goes for the 12-pointer and kills you that week and kills your trust. Coming in at number 14 is a player who I kind of feel like is the last quarterback that really gives me a ton of upside. I know it didn't sound like it with Joe Burrow, who I just talked about, but he could still be great, and we've seen him be great. Trey Lance is number 14 for me, and this is just a pure upside pick. If, in the big if, Trey Lance has to play day 1, has to be the starter. I don't think I could spend a draft pick on him if Jimmy G gets named the starter. He could follow in the footsteps of number 10 quarterback Jalen Hurts, who struggled through the air, but his rushing ability could carry him to a safe floor and possibly some high upside boom weeks. In his 2 starts last season, he carried the ball 16 and 8 times. If we're getting a quarterback that's going to carry it, an average of 8 to 10 times a game, I'm in on that for fantasy football. Trey Lance, he doesn't have to be the best quarterback throwing through the air. He doesn't have to be the best thrower. He could do, like I said, Jalen Hurts and be on the ground and just be awesome. In a great offense, Kyle Shanahan will have him in RPOs, goal line rushes. Trey Lance feels like either he's going to be really great for fantasy football or he's going to flame out quick. Coming in at number 15 is Derek Carr. Now, Derek Carr has a new friend in town. That friend being all-pro receiver Davante Adams. The thing that's holding me back from making a big leap on Derek Carr is, A, he's a good real-life quarterback. I don't think he's anything special. I think he's good. And B, he hasn't really done it for fantasy football ever. He had one season back in 2016 where he finishes the QB 10. Outside of that, he's been QB 13, 13, 17, 18. Not great. But maybe this is the year where Carr can put it all together. I mean, he has the weapons, Davante Adams, Darren Waller, Hunter Renfrow. I mean, that trio could give Carr the weekly bump in the top 10 status. I just personally, I'm not betting on it because I think you're only as good as your quarterback. And Derek Carr, I don't think he's the best quarterback in the league. I don't think he's that great. I think he's okay. I think you're happy to have him, but is he really a top 10, top 15 talented quarterback? I don't think so. Coming in at number 16, another not so talented quarterback, a good quarterback, Kirk Cousins. Last year was a great year for Cousins, throwing for 4,200 yards and 33 TDs. But that's really it. That's the peak. That's peak Kirk Cousins that you're going to get in a fantasy football season. There's no chance he's higher. 0%. Cousins is really the poster child of heartbreaker. So many times you finally trust him, and he goes out there and gets a 13-point stinker and kills your week. I'm down on Cousins. Weirdly enough, Dalvin Cook only rushed for 6 touchdowns last year after rushing for 29 the 2 seasons prior. I expect Dalvin Cook, who's awesome, probably one of the most talented running backs in the league, to rush for double-digit TDs, which should eat away from Cousins' overall numbers. The thing that Cousins has going for him is he's good, and he has great weapons. I mean, Justin Jefferson is the next NFL superstar, while aging, but still very productive TD maker Adam Thielen is back after, being injured, and posting back-to-back double-digit TD seasons. Kirk Cousins, he's the ultimate QB2 in fantasy football leagues. Just, you don't want him in redraft as your QB1. Coming in at number 17 is Trevor Lawrence, and I think we officially entered the, I'm just kind of guessing here, quarterback list. I think the kid's got a chance to turn his career around. I mean, it was a tough first year, and I actually did a whole video talking about his film, and there were some definite flashes in his game. Jacksonville brought in Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram, Zay Jones, and don't forget about Marvin Jones and Laviska Shenault. They're all still there. Plus, Lawrence's college teammate, Travis Etienne, is back from injury. Could be a wasted pick, someone you have to take late, but who cares? It's a late round pick. This guy could suck, or he could put it together and could be a weekly waiver wire pickup streamer, or maybe a full-time low-end QB1. Who knows? Coming in at number 18 is Justin Fields. And quickly, we're going to nail through the rest of these guys. If you like seeing bad rookie years, look at Trevor Lawrence. But if you want to see a shit show, look at Justin Fields. No weapons this year outside of Cole Kmet and Darnell Mooney. new head coach. But, the major but, the upside, had over 6 rushing attempts in a game in 7 of the games he played in last year. Let's just hope that Fields fits in with Jalen Hurts and Trey Lance, and he has the weekly rushing floor while not having a ton of upside. If that's the case, Justin Fields will be valuable in fantasy for 2022. Coming in at number 19 is Matt Ryan. At this point, you've reached the guys who really have no upside at all. Ryan's story is written in the stars. I mean, outside his MVP performance and 2018 season, so 2 years of his long career, Ryan has thrown for 26 TDs or less on a new run-heavy team. I expect him to put up similar stats of signal callers he's followed: Carson Wentz and Phillip Rivers, aka 4,000 yards, 25 touchdowns, and 10 picks. Coming in at number 20 is Ryan Tannehill. What's there to really like about Ryan Tannehill? He's another up-and-down player, but unlike someone like Matt Ryan, Tannehill should rush for 250 yards and some TDs. I mean, he has 14 rushing touchdowns the past 2 seasons. Yes, you heard that correctly. A.J. Brown is gone and was replaced by Robert Woods and rookie Trayvon Burks. I think Tannehill's days of being a good fantasy quarterback are behind him, but in a 2 QB league or weekly streamer list, Tannehill will rush for some touchdowns and make you a happy manager certain weeks. Coming in at number 21 is Tua Tagovailoa, and this might be really the last guy that has any sliver of upside. You may think, how do I have Tua so low? Oh yeah, it's because I think he stinks. I've been off the bandwagon since college, but I have to admit, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle do make an interesting duo, but not enough for me to get super excited for Tua to be my starting quarterback for fantasy. Coming in at 22 is Mac Jones. He's just Matt Ryan light. You know, he had an impressive rookie year, but it's obvious the Patriots want to run the ball 50 times a game and limit Jones's throwing attempts. Only 3 games with 40 or more attempts, so he's in a really low ceiling offense where he doesn't throw the ball a ton and has no rushing ability. And in the games where he threw 40 more attempts, he threw 5 touchdowns and 6 picks. So obviously, that's not going to be the Patriots' game plan. Jones is the classic example of pretty good NFL quarterback, but bad or very much average at least for fantasy football. Number 23 on the list is Carson Wentz. And boy, I wish I knew how to quit you. I didn't want to put you on the list, but I had to get you on. Last year was an okay year. 27 touchdowns, only 7 interceptions. It's pretty fine. Now in Washington, should have a good core of Terry McLaurin, a now healthy Curtis Samuel, and now healthy Logan Thomas. That's a pretty good trio. I think Wentz's best years are behind him, but I've seen greatness in him, and that's what keeps me around. That's what keeps me in it. I wouldn't be totally shocked if he got his groove back and had a great year as a Washington Commander. But also, when he flames out eventually, I'm not surprised either. And to round out my 2022 top 24 fantasy quarterback rankings, that's a mouthful, is number 24, Marcus Mariota. Now, I'm not willing to give any of the kids below him a chance to rise above the 24 spot. And what I mean is Davis Mills, Zach Willson, any of the rookie quarterbacks. I can't put him above Marcus Mariota. I think Mariota will come back pretty hungry and looking to prove once again that he should be a starting quarterback. In Atlanta, there's not a ton of weapons, but Kyle Pitts and rookie Drake London could be pretty fun. Could have some big upside weeks. But let's be honest. Let's not kid ourselves. Mariota is known for scrambling. So if that's going strong, Mariota could be worth the gamble. But probably not. That's why he's number 24. Alright, and there's the list. I wanted to give an in-depth breakdown of all these players because I see so many videos where people talk about QBs and it's 8 minutes long. And in 8 minutes covering 24 quarterbacks, are you actually saying anything? Or are you just kind of speaking BS and in generalities? I'll let you decide. I hope you guys liked the video, and if you did, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. There'll be plenty of more content coming your way soon. Thanks, and I'll see you guys next time.